Hi, I'm Pat Sauer with the Iowa Stormwater Education Partnership, and it is that time of year that we recognize our water warriors for the Iowa Stormwater Conference 2024. This year, the Ice Storm Planning Committee selected John Swanson with Polk County and Greg Pierce with RDG. Let's take a listen to what they have to say.
So when I think about inspiration and water, brings me back to my childhood. Growing up in Des Moines in central Iowa, my family, what we did every weekend is we went out and we enjoyed water. We canoed, we fished, we hunted, and about every weekend we were out there enjoying Iowa's natural resources. So I knew from a young age that I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked working outside and I wanted to work with the environments. Going to college, getting a job, and starting to do kind of getting to connect what you care about. And as you grow, as I've grown my own family and have my own kids, that enjoyment has continued, and really just getting to care about Iowa's water. And I think that care is really is what can keep you going every day, because the reality is as a conservationist and as a professional, work can be very difficult, it can be slow, but when you really care about what you do, it can make a difference in your day-to-day. So part of just that care about Iowa's water and getting to enjoy our natural resources, but the other part, it really has to do, for me, about teamwork and team building. And this idea of building a team of people that you can really trust and have a relationship with has really compelled how I love to work with people in water. And when you can form a team, and that team may be your employees, it may be your consultants, it may be partner organizations, maybe all these cliche things that we talk about all the time on a watershed scale, like how do we build a watershed partnership? But the beauty of it is, if you can do that and you can keep those partnerships going year after year, you really start seeing kind of things change. And those things that change is more people want to work with you, more great projects come up. And years ago, I mean, we'd have one wetland project would come up and it was like the greatest project we'd ever dreamed of. And now with our team and just all the great relationships we have, it's like every week there's a new amazing project. And I think really what you can attribute that to is just a lot of people who just really care, and us working together and just realizing that at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is just find good projects and build good projects. And if you can do that, the funding, it'll work itself out. A lot of us have grown together, kind of in central Iowa. A lot of us have been working together for a long time. I think it's really come down to just relying on each other and being real about like project management, and good project management equals good teamwork. And so when I really think about this water warrior opportunity, I think about all the people that we've worked together with, and there's a lot of us. There's a lot of us that have spent a lot of time together for it's a lot of years now, almost a decade for me personally, or over a decade. So really just caring about the land, being a kid, playing in streams, being an adult, playing in streams, dragging my 3 daughters out with me, floating down a river, and doing that and getting to go to work and work with people that you enjoy spending time with and that you want to work hard and see them be successful and they want to see you be successful. I say those are the two things that impact me daily, and just trying to make a difference, but understanding that any one person can only do so much. So what can you do? Who else can you bring onto the fold? How can you teach young people to not make the same mistakes you did? How can you talk about the failures? How you can get all these awards, but you should spend just as much time about what didn't work. And we love doing that. And being a supportive environment at Polk County, we truly have the support. We have buy-in from our board of supervisors down to our construction technicians, that they care about this type of work. They care about Iowa's water. And that just creates an environment where failure is okay, because the only way for us to change things is by trying new things. And with trying new, you're going to fail quite a bit, and that's okay.
So when I was young, I grew up on a farm over in western Jasper County. I remember we had a little creek that ran through our farm, so I remember kind of playing in the creek, going down there with my dad, walking around barefoot in the creek, being curious a little bit about why things are the way they are. You know, I'd go down there one year and then the next year things were a little bit different. Why didn't it look different? You know, why was there some erosion or things that made things change? I went off to college and really thought I would get into transportation engineering or structural engineering, something like that. But my first job out of school, I started doing more land development just because that's what the job was, and took a little interest in that. As part of that, you start getting into stormwater management because it's something that's required. At first you're kind of taught a little bit, well, these are the regulations, this is what you have to do. The more I got into it, I started kind of learning that maybe the ways we did things didn't work out, didn't have the outcomes that we thought it was going to have. I started walking some streams. I remember being out with Wayne Peterson one time on a stream where he was walking around, and we had this eroded stream where the city wanted us to make some repairs as part of the development process to make sure that the homeowners weren't left with an eroded stream in their backyard. And Wayne was out there walking around and pointing to us, and here's what's going on here, and this is why it's happening. And it just made me wonder a little bit, like, well, if we've got all this stormwater management up in the watershed, it was 200 or 300 acre watershed, well, why do we see all these problems here? Why are things getting so much worse? And it really started to make me wonder and doing research. And that just led into other things like working on the Prairie Trail development up in Ankeny, where conservation of stormwater was really at its core. They wanted to treat stormwater as an amenity, as a resource, something that could be created to have ponds and wetlands and places for people to interact with the water, that they would see it as a resource. But it was actually serving a stormwater management function too. It was helping prevent downstream channel erosion. It was helping to prevent flooding. We're out here at Gray Station Wetland in Des Moines. This was an area, it used to be 2 or 3 actual detention basins. One was actually 2 of them were dry detention basins. 2 of them were dry detention basins with basically concrete flumes in them, so the water would come out of the storm sewer system, travel only 100 feet or 200 feet, and go right into the river. And then there was an older pond out here that needed some maintenance, that didn't have a natural outlet, that they actually had to put a temporary pump and pump out. None of them were very aesthetic at the time, and the developer out here at Gray Station was concerned about that being, how would that appear to people who wanted to buy homes out here? Would it be an asset, or would they see that as a liability? So working with the developer Hubble, working with the city of Des Moines, we were able to really reimagine this area and interconnect all those basins into one giant stormwater wetland. So where the water used to go only 100 feet, 200 feet through a concrete flume and then out to the river, basically no opportunities for treatment, water quality improvement. Now it has to travel 3/4 of a mile from the west side of the wetland all the way over here to the east, and then it has to flow back to the west before it reaches the pump station and either flows out to the river when the river's low, or gets pumped out to the river when the river's high. Unfortunately in our state now we've got the Stormwater Management Manual that's been around for about 15 years now, and I've been fortunate enough to help out with some of the updates of that. Really having a chance to kind of mentor people and share knowledge and really try to elevate design. I think that's one thing that's really inspired me over the careers, like what would I think if I lived in that house that lives along the stream, or that the storm sewer is running through my backyard? Would I be okay if we got 3 inches of rain and I had water in my basement? Would I be okay if we got a 2 or 3 inch rain and my backyard started eroding away? Of course I wouldn't be comfortable with that. I'd be asking questions. I'd be asking people, well, why did you let this happen? How can I fix this? Because a lot of these things are just too expensive for an individual homeowner to take on their own. It's going to affect the resale value of their house. It's going to be tremendously expensive for them to try to fix. As engineers, really, the health, safety, and welfare of the public should be our #1 priority. And while we need to be conscious of cost and try to keep costs down, ultimately we can't compromise on people's health, safety, and the welfare of the public when we design these systems. So, moving forward in the future over the next 10, 15 years, I really hope we advance that way. I hope that we pay more attention, that we understand really the challenges that are ahead. I think a lot of people just don't understand the scale of how much water runs off some of these areas and how challenging it is to deal with that. So how do we design things more effectively that prevents flooding, prevents downstream channel erosion, that improves water quality, that leaves downstream property owners protected and safe, that starts to really value the resource that water is, that we can create places like this that are values to the community, that we look at water more as an asset, and ultimately that leads to improvements in water in the state as a whole, that we start having better water quality in our rivers, we have less properties that are in danger of flooding, and just overall people have a chance to enjoy those resources across the state.